Okay, to all my Muslim friends around the globe, brothers and sisters, Ijumaa takatifu kwa waaminifu wote wa ile dini ya Kiislamu. Allah Akbar to all of y'all. Yes, I acknowledge that, and I acknowledge Sabbatarians. I do. The Adventists and the people of Judaic faith. Is Friday is a special evening for them, great dinner. I remember those days myself, trying to cook dinner later. Hopefully, I'll join in those people prescribed to this form of faith that begins on a Friday sunset to a Saturday sunset. Let's have it all, okay? Let's celebrate that. But I think as we celebrate, let's acknowledge some things. Let's acknowledge injustice when we see it, okay? Listen, I don't think all of us have the capacity or the courage or gall or the stomach to address injustice. I'm not saying I'm that brave. I didn't go to the protest that happened a few summers ago in 2016. My son did. I'm proud of him. He was one of those young people that put their lives on the line. You never know what happens in protest. I go there because I think sometimes in sports, in the arena of sports, in the space of sports, this is a platform that people are only sometimes too focused on excellence, fast times, goals, how many baskets you can make, how many medals you can win, how much money you make, what's your contract, and all that. They look like to be the goal that people think that is all it is, that's the bottom line. But I think, sports in general doesn't operate in a vacuum. You cannot separate sports from the reality of society and issues of environment, which I've been trying to look at the ecosystem myself. When I speak here, I speak realizing that if the air quality out there is compromised or it's not healthy for anybody, it's even worse for athletes. So I think I talked about in one of my episodes, like global warming is real. And if you think sports, it does not have it doesn't face those kind of consequences and the fallouts or the ramifications of bad environment and the quality of air, then you've never ran or you've never participated in a sport. Because there's no way you're going to remove air that we breathe from sports. It's like drinking water. It's like if you have no water, you can't participate in a sport. You have to hydrate. Yesterday I was refereeing a high school game. It's supposed to be 40 minutes. We have to every 20 minutes we take a break because it's warm, it's hot. So I'm talking of reality here. So when I go back to that protest and injustice being a pushback on injustices among anybody, and then you hear this, shut up and dribble. That's what LeBron James was told when he was protesting with the basketball players. Colin Kaepernick has become a pariah. He's become a villain. He's been ostracized. His guy has never been seen in football because he took a knee and said, enough of this. The other day, Mo Salah, the striker for Liverpool, spoke against the carnage and the genocide among the Palestinians and Israel and what is going on there. And there was a pushback. People are calling him out. You can't speak. You see, this idea of muting voices that is not new. 1968, two African Americans stood in the podium. They took their medals off their necks and protested against injustice in America. Even now, some people think they should be wiped off the history of this country. Because when you call people on what is wrong, some people don't like being exposed. I say this because, coming from a country like Kenya, for instance, people don't know this, but for 24 years, we were living under a regime that was despot. You had no voice. And some of us, I will not talk about this here, it's not my place, We suffered, we could hardly breathe. If you say anything against the regime, you never knew where to go. There was no freedom of speech. So I say this because the other day I saw an exchange online on a tennis court in US Open that speaks to the space and the place and the face of our history, whereby people of color, people who want to live their lives, maybe just doing what they need to do, you can hear the debasement of language, the belittling, the talking down of people. Where an athlete by the name of Yelena Ostapenko tells the other Taylor Toynstead, you are classless, you are uneducated. When did we get here? We got here because people of color, people who have always said we belong on the table, we are human beings, we have intellectual capacity. Our rights are your rights. We live in the same ecosystem. We demand this equality, so we may use that word. We demand a territory in Palestine where we can live with our neighbors. They're either bombed or people talk to them like this woman, Yelena. I don't know which is this from, Czech? I don't know what nationality she is. For her to have that gall of telling another athlete or a tennis player classless and educated. The debasement of language has a history. I mean, the leadership in this country hasn't shied away from seeing African Americans or people of color as having low IQ. What does that tell you? In other words, we don't belong in the same space. Or if you are black, like let me just switch a little bit and see where I'm going with this. If you are black and you're Sakara Richardson, public apology is not enough. You're still a villain. You are a villain when you use weed in the US trials in 2021. You are a villain. You are a criminal. So that cloud, that package lives with some of these athletes. Either you can go to Harvard and people question your credentials. The country, Obama was questioned that he never went to college. So I'm saying this because we are, the people of color historically have never been seen as being able or they belong to certain spaces. I say this because when somebody is told to shut up and dribble, when somebody in a sport is told you're classless and uneducated. I remember one time somebody told me, oh, you speak good English. I was like, I grew up speaking English. Why is it good now? Is that a compliment? Listen, I don't know where that person came from. Maybe because I'm from East of Africa or whatever, they think I've not been internationally exposed. Remember, people say, oh, they are ignorant, so that's the excuse. Oh, you didn't go to school. Did you speak English over there? And I think for me it's problematic because people assume because you're somebody of color, you're just like a figure. Either you're a criminal, uneducated, or you're classless. Or this is a package people put on you on the ballot. So you have to prove every time that I'm able to do it. I can speak well. So you have to speak well. You speak very well. Are you kidding me? In this day and age, you're telling me I speak very well. That's not a compliment. If you can understand me, why do you have to say I speak well? In this day of AI, and I speak a language that I hope your audience, you can hear me that I'm speaking English, right? I have an accent somewhere in the middle there that it doesn't take away from the fact I can speak. I can talk. I can engage you guys. Okay? I'm struggling to understand how people view other people and how people don't see that as a form of degradation, debasement, and putting people in a space that they don't even belong. And I think it even goes further for me because in athletics, if you hear some of these pundits, some of these broadcasters, and in fact, there was a BBC article, I think which newspaper, an UK article that was done to articulate and make a case that says that racism, okay, I had to bring it up The card, I'm waving the card of racism now. Okay, I did. I didn't want to go there, but I did. That when people of Caucasian look at athletes, mostly of African descent, they see them as muscular, they are fast, and they stop there. You never hear them saying that they are genius or they are technical. There's this thing, and it was fun. I'm not making, you can go research. They are fast and they are very physical. They don't even see their brain power. And that's where we are coming from. And some of us are pushing back. As I speak here to my subscribers and my audience, that is a form of discrimination. And this woman, Jelena, whatever her name is, telling a woman across the tennis who just beat her on 2 sets in US Open, that vilified the last time we saw Serena Williams because she lost a coup. And people thought she was out of control when she was playing Naomi Osaka. We remember that. US Open has become a graveyard for tennis players. I'm going there because I think I'm pushing back because it's okay to celebrate excellence. Basketball, Fast Times, Lord Knights of this world, break world records, Faith Kipyegon. And then when it comes to the mental capacity, the intellectualism of some of these athletes, when it's questioned and is being seen as not capable enough, you are not educated. Wow, in this day and age. You think I'll be quiet here? No, I won't. Because I'm saying this because this narrative has to change. It changes from the way we see other, that we are able to articulate our story. We are able to articulate our story either by doing something and still tapping into our mental capacity. Let me continue by saying this. When it comes to injustice, it's wrong here, it's wrong everywhere. And I think athletes need to be more vocal. And I applaud those who are. It goes as far as saying last year in Kenya, we had huge protests, whether you saw it or not. Many young people were killed by the regime goons, barbaric police system we have over there. They were shot at, some were kidnapped, abducted, some people have never seen their bodies. It's not a story I make up. Check Kenya News. The voices of athletes were muted. Maybe some spoke. I'm not aware of any. I'm not saying everybody has the courage either. Eliud Kipchoge could have said something. Faith Kipyegon could have said something. Beatrice Chebet could have said something. These are young people who are just protesting for their rights, that the government was not delivering on some issues. The fact that their voices were muted, or they were subdued, or they didn't have the courage, makes us wonder, what is sports all about anyway? What are we doing here? Just gonna break world records when other people are being broken by guns and clubs and abductions? Well, I called out Kenyan athletes today, didn't I? Because I think the voices of some of these great ambassadors in sports need to be amplified, and they need to take courage to stand on the side of people who are being abused or being brutalized. You know, the other day I was watching this Ukrainian high jumper, Yaroslava from Ukraine. She's just smiling. Are we aware that as she's smiling, their neighborhood or their country is being bombed by another country? Is that okay? How do you balance that? Do you just say, oh yeah, and yet a bomb just dropped in their flats? It's Good Friday, is it? Well, 2,000 years ago, some Christians say it wasn't good. Somebody was hanging on the cross. What about that? Is that a reminder? Well, let me finish with something here that hopefully I don't drive you guys out of my channel. It was Justice Friday. It was both injustice and justice, if you know what I'm saying. But let me end on Michael Johnson's story. If you watch my episode, which is the 82nd episode, which was the early, I'm in about 200 right now. I don't know where episodes I've done. Hold on a minute. I gave Michael Johnson one of the best accolades you can give to an athlete. In 1996, Michael Johnson, you can go look back. Watch Michael Johnson race on YouTube, any YouTube channel, in the 400 meters in Atlanta, 1996. It was in the evening. It was kind of dark. The lights were shining. I think they had phones or some lights were gleaming. They had these golden shoes with him. He won gold. He came back, won 200 meters gold, broke the world record in both events. This guy was in Mount Everest in Atlanta, 1996. Right now, I'm looking at what has happened to him over the years. And let me tell you something. I've admired this guy's sudden form of his career after he became a good pundit with BBC, broadcasting athletics around the world, well-spoken man. In fact, he suffered a very bad stroke at one point that almost took his life. He came back. Yes, he did. He came back from a very, very deadly, almost took his life kind of a stroke. He came back. He's been doing good. I don't know what this GST has been, but I say I was very fair with him when he first introduced this. I've always said in this platform, track and field and sports that talk to athletics underpays their athletes to a point whereby you're like, it's not even minimum wage. I've compared it to tennis, which is never fair. You can never compare it to golf either because it's never fair. But track and field is underpaid as a profession, period. It's worse when you have a contract and you're a woman and you get pregnant. Okay? You know where I'm going with that. So when he came up with this great idea, I was like, yeah, this sounds great. He can double the prices. But this is what has happened to him. This is gonna go down as one of the biggest hall of shame fallout you can ever see in a career of anybody. If it goes down the way it is going down at this rate, right now it's an avalanche of massive fall. I'm reading this, guys, in New York Times, an article written by Adam Crafton in athletics.com. This is what he says. Very, very disturbing statements. Not disturbing, but very, almost like, wow, it gets worse. So he says, despite GST claiming in a press release in June last year that it had secured, in quotes, over $30 million in financial commitments, sources close to the league now concede they had, at that stage, received only $13 million, with lead investors Winners Alliance having an option, but not an obligation, to advance a further $19 million. 13, maybe 19. So he's, okay, there we go. He continues. It did have a preliminary non-binding assigned term sheet with Elridge, which, if completed, would have seen the fund close to a deal on or around April Fool's Day, April 1st, to invest a further $30 million in initial funding, an additional $10 million later in 2025. However, this is where you'll find the clip that I put out there in my episode. I think it's episode 85. This is where I started to see this thing before even this article wrote it. He says, however, this did not complete on time, and after Elridge officials attended the underwhelming debut meet in Kingston, Jamaica, the fund informed Michael Johnson and GST it would not be investing in the league. Dead on arrival. It was dead on arrival in Jamaica. Jamaica was dead. The GST died in Jamaica. These guys are saying, if this is how you're going to start, this is dead. Michael Johnson didn't heed though. He could have just said it is dead. Take that pride out of your system, my brother. Take it. He could have just said, hey, this is not happening. You know, the sad thing about Jamaica is that he went to Jamaica without any Jamaican top star athlete. I'm talking of Sherika Jackson. I'm talking of Anna Price. I'm talking of Clayton sisters. I'm talking of Keshawn Thompson. They were not in the league. They were not even signed up. They said, we're not going. When you don't have Noah Nile signing up, when you have some of these big names not signing, and you go to Jamaica, and you think you're going to launch your debut on a GST or a new thing in Jamaica without Jamaicans, dead on arrival. That's what this article is saying. Listen to me and to my fans. I was wishing this guy luck in the beginning. I was celebrating. Oh, finally. I had my questions, I had my doubts, and I share those on my. You can go back and forth if you're interested. Michael Johnson went solo, and he's getting swallowed by the whale every day. The fallout from this is massive, it's problematic, and it's going to cost a lot of people some nightmares. Okay? And for me, as a Tukuriadathona here, I'll say this. Always respect traditions. People have tried to come up with this new thing. Traditions always win. If you watch Diamond League the other day, you watch all these things been happening for ages. You only improve on those, but you don't come up with this. And you think, Michael Johnson, you're going to just come up with this North American thing and run away with it to Jamaica. And from Jamaica, what happened, my friend? Tukuriada, my friend, justice for all, and justice for all, right? Shakira Richardson, you know, it's for me, I hope I make a case for her that our apology that she gave the other day, Shakira I'm talking about, was enough, that the country and the legal framework that we have in this country has grace and forgiveness. I know people of color are always viewed differently in the legal system, and the law is hard on them, and the fact that they are still even pursuing charges on Shakira Richardson as we speak. They are talking of it 4th-degree assault on somebody called Christian who has apologized and taken responsibility too. Amicably is not enough, apparently. It is hard being somebody of color sometimes in a system or a country, isn't it? It gets worse for some of us who come from Kenya, where there's no safety net at all unless you have money. That is the injustice we see. It's not just for here, it is a global problem. From Middle Eastern Gaza bombings and genocide to Ukraine, to Kenya, to whatever you look at, justice is always being the cry for many, and mostly people of color, period. And it might sound like on this side of the planet, but on the other side of the pond is the elites and the rulers that are always brutalizing the poor. And that's the nature of the beast. It was Good Friday, man. It's always Good Friday. I'll end on that. Hey, subscribe. I hope I didn't make your day sad. I hope I didn't make your day wonder what you signed up for. I hope I woke you up to realize that this guy does not shy away from subjects that are controversial. No, justice is justice, no matter how you look at it. Talk to you later, my friend. The other side of the pillow. Blessed.